Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first ever Elderly Fraud Summit. This is a big deal. We have a great participation here in the audience, and we have, 60 plus people on Zoom. So welcome, everyone, if you're out there on Zoom. I do want to also recognize certain people that are very critical to having this happen today. This wouldn't happen without the collaboration and the partnership with all of our teammates here in the city of Mill Valley, Angie Brenner from the library, and Ashley Howe from Arts and Recreation. Thank you so much for helping us put this on. We really appreciate you. I also have a couple of our command team members. I have Captain Lindsay Haynes and Lieutenant Sean McCracken. But I want to give a special thanks to Michelle Terrell, who really did the heavy lift here and organized this event to get everyone here today and this great group of panelists that we have before you. So if we could give Michelle a round of applause, I'd really appreciate that. Everyone in this room, including me, has been touched by fraud somehow, whether it be me personally, a family member, a friend. We've all been touched by this, and they're getting more and more sophisticated. So Mark Vanderschoff, he came to the Police Chiefs Association and gave a presentation with members of the Adult Protective Services and the Marin County DA's office. And we thought, wow, wouldn't that be wonderful to bring that group here to Mill Valley, because we see a lot of these cases here in Mill Valley. You see it throughout the United States, but we see it a lot here in Mill Valley. And Mark and his team were absolutely wonderful and responsive in bringing this this group down here to Mill Valley. So thank you so much, Mark, for your leadership on this. As the mayor said, we have a great group of experts here. We have a dynamic team, and they have a lot to present in a short period of time. So I'm going to introduce them one at a time, and then if you can, when they do their presentations, wait until the end, because you're going to get a lot of information. Wait until the end to ask your questions so that we can go around. We'll have microphones out in the audience, and then our panelists will also have a microphone up here so that we can hopefully answer any questions. And if not, at the end, we will be here in the audience to answer anything on the side. First, we have our lovely and phenomenal Marin County District Attorney Lori Fergoli. Our tax assessor recorder, Shelley Scott. DA investigator, Mark Reichel. Our Marin County Ombudsman, Dan Steckline. And from the Marin County Adult Protective Services, Eddie Estrada. And before I introduce the next one, in the back, we have from the U.S. Center for Medicare and Medicaid, Christina Colezo. And before we get started with our first presenter, I want to thank our city manager, Todd Cusimano. He's the one that got up there to turn on our projector, so thank you so much for helping us get this rolling. Awesome job. Okay, our first presenter from the Marin County Financial Abuse Services team is Jackie Whalen. Come on up, Jackie.
Good morning. From the Financial Abuse Specialist team, it is just so exciting to see so many people who are, is this not on? There we go. Anyway, FAST is excited to see so many people here this morning to listen to some sad stories about what happens when you are scammed, and to hear about how you can, on your own, in your own home, protect yourself from being scammed, from your identity being stolen, and from any other form of financial abuse that might float through the environment. There are three basic types of financial abuse. The first is scams. which I think we're all familiar with the notion. They're trying to get your money any way they can by any means of communication that they can use and that they can hijack for their own benefit. The second type of abuse is identity theft. And the goal of an identity thief is to get your personal information so that they can open charge accounts, any other bank in your name, and basically pretend to be you, and all of the consequences of that falls to you because it's your name and financial information on these accounts. The third type is what we call undue influence, and that is when someone takes control of the life of an older adult through intimidation, by being a trusted person in the family or a trusted advisor, such as a stockbroker. We've seen it happen with pastors of congregations. There's really no limit to that, and I'll be touching on each of these three. But I've got a couple of things I want to say starting out. Can we go to slide 3? Well, we'll see it in a minute. So elder financial abuse is literally a serious and nationwide problem, and it is underreported, it is understood, it is something that all senior adults need to be highly aware of. And two things, if you've been scammed, if your financial information has been stolen, if you've been misled into buying something that turned out not to be what you thought you were buying, it's important to remember that you are not the only victim. Never be embarrassed to report your loss to government agencies, to the local police department, or to whatever entity seems to be the appropriate place to report. Because the people, if you don't report, then you just make life for the scammers easier. So basically, sorry, we have a large PowerPoint, and I'm kind of winnowing it down here. Let's go to slide. Now, one more thing. So, generally, with regard to all kinds of financial abuse, what are some things that you can do to protect yourself? First of all, get a phone that has caller ID and message capability. And then program in the numbers of people that you know, companies that you deal with, or anyone else who would like to have legitimately contact you. If you see a number on your caller ID that is none of the above, don't pick up the phone. That has been one of the hardest things, I think, for me and other older adults, because we grew up, phone rings, you answer. Can't do that anymore. You need to be really wary of who you talk to. Be willing to hang up if you've answered the phone and it's not someone you want to talk to. Just hang up. You don't have to say, I'm sorry, I'm busy. You don't have to say anything. You just have to hang up. So put a little thing on your phone. Just hang up. Never give out your personal and financial information in response to an unsolicited call. No matter who it may appear to be making the call, you can never be certain that anybody is who they say they are. Which leads to the next thing. Always be suspicious. It's unfortunate. It's a type of dealing with the way we interact with the world that was not the case when we were younger, but the world has changed, and it's changed in ways that are not beneficial to many, many people. Never download anything, no attachments, no little gifts, nothing, unless you are absolutely certain where it comes from. So if you get, and because the hackers can get into anybody's phone and pretend to be anybody, if you get something from a friend that, look at this really fantastic joke, ha ha ha, don't download it. Call the friend. Say, did you send me this? Probably 7 times out of 10, they'll be, no, didn't send it to you. Delete it, get rid of it. So now that we've moved on from being suspicious, let's talk about slide 6. So really quickly, why are older adults targeted? And I will say one thing. It's been my experience over the years that I've been doing these presentations that the older adult community is far more savvy about scams and identity theft than it used to be. So some of these things still apply, but a lot of it is not really relevant because people are aware and people are careful. So older adults are the fastest growing age group. Scammers know that they're willing to engage in phone calls. Older adults use technology but aren't always aware of how it can be used against them. So that's why that becomes such a problem. Slide 7. Okay, so how do scams work? Most scams happen using the phone or the email, but they have been found everywhere on Facebook, on social media, pretty much anything that communicates between two people or two entities. So the caller ID you see may say PG&E or Chase Bank or Wells Fargo, or may even be a number. It may be a legitimate, coming from a legitimate phone number because that phone number has been hacked. I saw on Nextdoor, which is a fantastic source of the scams that are going around in the community currently, that a woman received a call, and the caller ID was it said Wells Fargo, and the phone number was actually a Wells Fargo phone number. But she had been educated, and she said at the end of this conversation, well, thank you very much for the information. I'm going to call my account manager at Wells Fargo right now and take care of this. Click. So you have to be careful and you have to verify. Usually they will tell you that they need some kind of personal information. Anybody asking you for personal information, you need to be extremely careful. Personal information includes your social security number, your Medicare number. It can be a bank account number, a credit card, a number of things can be used to collect information about you. Slide 18. These are just a couple examples of some of the scams that we have seen recently. I have to share with you, I got one actually from Norton, which is a computer security company that I have not done business with in at least 20 years. So it comes, and this was, I will tell you, this was a pretty amateur attempt to scam me. Starts out with the date, 21 July 2023. TH, not ST. So clue number 1. Then it says, we hope this communication finds you in good health and high spirits. Well, I am certain that Norton does not care if I am in good health or high spirits. So clue number 2. Clue number 3. To ensure uninterrupted access to our, capital U, unstoppable service and security. That's just off. So this is an example of something that actually is pretty easy to spot. Other things that are really kind of tells as to whether something is legitimate or not, awkward use of English. That's another big clue. Slide 9, please. So this is just a series of examples. This is one thing that they used to call the grandchildren scam, where they would call an older adult and say, hi, Grandma, this is George. I'm in Mexico. My friend had drugs. I'm in jail. Help. Those kinds of things are still going on with more sophistication because a lot of these scammers have now found a way to capture voices that are very similar to someone who might be a relative in trouble. Never, ever, they are counting on you panicking. Oh my God, George is in Mexico. He's in jail. I must send money. Don't panic. Immediately try to track. First, start with a call to the person who's theoretically in Mexico in jail. Then move to other family members. Do everything that you can to find out the location of this person, which is 99.9% of the time not going to be in a Mexican jail. So I've been getting a lot of emails telling me that my computer security is expiring. Never react to that. Always call whoever your computer security provider is and confirm with them that that is a legitimate piece of legitimate outreach. One way that you can minimize the risk of being caught up in some of these scams is to know ahead of time how your credit card company, your bank, your insurance company, the IRS, Medicare, any other government agency or business that you do business with, how will they contact you if there's a problem? Will they send a text? Will they send an email? Will they call you on your landline? Will they call you on your cell phone? If you know how they will reach out to you, you will be more able to discriminate between a legitimate and an illegitimate contact. The other thing you can do is to know how you can verify. I keep a list of the legitimate customer service numbers of every government entity and every private organization that I do business with, so that when I need to verify something or I need to reach them, I go to that list and I have the correct number. So if you just keep this stuff handy, it's going to make it a lot easier for you if you get a scam and you're not sure it's a scam and you don't really know where to go. Having this information will help you clear that up pretty quickly. Okay, so computer scams are probably the most prevalent and the most difficult to track down. They will tell you you've got a problem with your computer, that your bank account, your credit card, your insurance coverage, or any other problem that can be resolved with money has just hit you. One of the things that we have to be careful with, if we get something like this, we need to verify. And then if we get a computer problem, how do we find out where to go? Well, when I was working in consumer protection, volunteering in consumer protection with the DA's office, I got a call from a woman who got scammed because when her Apple computer stopped working, she went to Google to get the customer service number so that she could get her computer fixed. When you go to Google, the legitimate number is very rarely the first number you're going to see. If it says something like sponsored ad or something like that above it, you have to be very careful. Her problem was that she sent me the website, and the website was not APPLE, it was APLE. So they'll put something, the scammers will put something like that on Google, for example, and Google does, to be honest, I use Google all the time, but it does not do a great job discriminating between legitimate sites and non-legitimate sites. So you have to be very, very careful when you search on Google for something in line with like customer service or to find out how to get or do something, because there are a lot of things that are just not legit. Okay, moving to slide 10, slide 11. This is just kind of a okay. Protect yourself from scammers. It's actually anyway, this is a reinforcement of what we've already been talking about. Don't answer calls that you don't know the caller through ID or through a familiar number. Never ever assume that anybody is who they say it is. It's unfortunate, but it is a reality of current life. Verify callers, verify email senders, verify texts, verify pretty much anything that comes into you through an electronic mechanism. Never give out your personal information or remote access to your computer. If you're talking to someone and they want access to your computer, it is likely, unless they are a trusted source, the scammers use this as a way to drop malware onto your computer. And malware, which is like a huge universe of bad things that happen to computers, is something that you really don't want. So anyway, this is kind of a reinforcement, if you will. One thing that I found out was really interesting. If you are taking a survey, if you're participating in a survey, and they're asking a lot of quote-unquote yes or no questions, the safest thing to do is never respond by saying yes or no, or things like that's correct. Because what they can do is they can take those snippets of your voice and they can drop those into some other recorded conversation so that it will look like you have agreed to something that you had no intention to agree to. So what do you say? For example, if they say, is this Susie Smith? You respond by saying, that's my name. Is your address 324 Maple Street, Mill Valley, California?
That is my address. So you're parroting back to them with an affirmation, but you're not using words that will be useful to them in creating a fake dialogue that they can then use to show that you agreed to subscribe to this, whatever it was, for the rest of your life. So yeah, that was kind of an interesting fun fact that I came across. Slide 13. Artificial intelligence, kind of a new thing on the scene. However, they have been able to somehow, they can hack into phones, they can sort of listen to conversations, and then they can create a vocal stream that is the voice of somebody and use that to try to get you to send money because that person is in trouble. Or it might be a good friend who says, my credit card has been blocked because there was a fraudulent transaction. My sister's birthday is tomorrow. I need to get her something. Can you send me money? I'll pay you back. Call the person and say, gee, did you ask me for money? More likely than not, they'll say no. So anyway, don't trust. It just comes back to the don't trust anything, I guess. It's pretty simple. So take a look at slide 14. One of the things that that criminals do at this point is, I mean, AI is the newest thing, and they are putting out, learn about AI, learn how to protect yourself from AI, learn how to manipulate AI. Those are really, you should not respond to those ads. Because it's always going to be, we can sell you this thing. I'm trying to shorten this up here. So signs, really quick, because this is one of the ways malware comes onto your computer. Signs that there's malware on your computer. Your computer suddenly slows down, crashes a lot, or shows repeated error messages. Your computer won't shut down. Your computer won't restart. It won't let you take software off, and it won't let you put software on. Shows a lot of pop-ups, ads that block what you're trying to see. Pornography, other inappropriate content shows up on your computer. Weird icons show up on your taskbar. Websites that you didn't open pop up, notwithstanding that you didn't open them. Sends out emails or messages that you didn't write, and needs charging more frequently than before. 15. These are a couple of premises that we have long believed in at the FAST team. If it sounds too good to be true, when the mayor was here speaking about what his father was approached to do, it's that same thing. If you get a communication that says you've won a lottery, well, especially if you never entered the lottery, it's unlikely that you actually won the lottery. That was another inquiry I got when I was working with consumer protection in the DA's office. This guy got a letter. It said, you can claim your $400,000 prize either by flying to Spain was a Spanish lottery, or by paying X amount to our agent in the US. So he called me and he said, do you think this is a scam? And my first question was, did you enter the lottery? He says, no, I did not enter the lottery. I said, well, look, do you know how hard it is to win a lottery you enter? It is virtually impossible to win a lottery you never entered. So that stuff is out there. So too good to be true, you know it in your gut. And they take advantage of people who are desperate and need money. They target them somehow by providing them with an opportunity to literally make themselves rich. The best business transaction, whether it's making a purchase, investing in something, having a service performed, subscribing to something, the best transaction is one that you initiate on your own, based on your own research or recommendations from trusted people, that meets a real need that you have, not just a deal that seems too good to pass up. 17. All righty. Oh, 16, we need to do be aware of incoming. It's basically what I just said. Lots of stuff comes into you. Ignore it. If there's something that you want to do, you do it on your own based on recommendations you trust. 17. Homeowner scams. I think most people are pretty familiar with this. And this is just really a list of things that would be, yeah, bring out your phone and take a picture of this. These are things to know if you need work done on your house. Because door-to-door contractors, not always trustworthy. Licensed contractors, if the work is over 500, needed. So anyway, this is just a way in a homeowner scam situation to protect yourself by doing these things. All righty. Slide 18. Identity theft. So as I said earlier, someone uses your information like your birth date or social security number, creates false documents, open accounts in your name, they make purchases, they accumulate, and sometimes, some of the cases we've seen, massive amounts of debt has been accumulated. And it's attributed to you. And it's very hard to prove that it's someone who's stolen your identity. So don't rush into giving people information. Be very, very careful. Guard it. 19. This is just some information about how you can protect yourself from identity theft. Shred unwanted mail. Don't share your passwords. Big rule. Don't share passwords. Report suspected identity theft to the police. And so some financial institutions will provide you with identity theft protection if you've had an identity theft attempt. Check your financial accounts a lot. Track it. Have online access to your checking account, to your credit cards, all of that. Make sure you look at it often enough to know that if something bad has happened, because the longer you let that go, the less likely your financial institution is going to be to make you whole. 20. This is something that's really sort of dear to my heart in a sad way. I'm going to start out with a really quick little scenario that I worked on with the FAST team, because one of the things we do is we help law enforcement go through reams and reams of paper when there's been a financial fraud that's happened. So there was a woman had a son. The son was in a car accident at some point, was very, very badly injured, got hooked on Oxy and all of the other opiates. Then the crisis about opiates started, and the doctors backed off and said, no, we can't give you this much anymore. Well, he felt like he needed this much to survive, so he had to go on the black market. So he engaged in a series of transactions through PayPal, where he purchased drugs for himself and then enough to sell in order to be able to pay for what he purchased. One of the things, but he used his mother's money. He drugged her with some of the opiates so that she would be unaware or incapable of becoming aware of what he was doing. Unfortunately, his mother's caregiver, unfortunately for him, his mother's caregiver started wondering about what was going on and said, called APS, I believe, and said, this is not a good situation, can you check it out? Ultimately, he was, I don't remember, Lori, if he did a plea agreement or if he was found guilty, but in any event, he was convicted. We were very, very lucky because his mother died shortly before he was arrested. I mean, all of the opiates he'd been pouring through her body just took her out. So that's why I think undue influence is important. 21. Who commits undue influence? Sadly, the greatest number are the adult children of the older adult who is being controlled. None of us raise our children with the expectation that they will do that, but it happens. So I'm going to share this with you mostly, not because I think any of you have children will do it, but you may have friends whose children will. So there's that angle of it. And then there's this. It's the professionals with whom the older adult does business. I have seen, financial advisors, caregivers, pastors, just like a whole, nobody seems to be such a good person that none of this will happen. So in any event, so always check caregiver references. It's important not to become familiar with or friends with people providing you services. They are there in a professional capacity, and it should remain a professional relationship. 22, please. So one of the things about undue influence is that there are signs that an older adult is being unduly influenced. And here, some of these signs are basically the person who used to be very, very communicative is no longer communicative. You go over to visit and their adult son is in the room all the time. In fact, their adult son answers questions or speaks to you more than your friend speaks to you. The victim's behavior changes. They become anxious. Someone who used to be self-confident and outgoing and social, they become secretive, they become anxious. They're fearful, they're uninterested in socializing, they don't talk to their friends. If you see these behaviors, step in, see something, say something. You can make a call to Adult Protective Services anonymously, describe the circumstances, and they will take a look at it and determine if it needs to be investigated. But don't just write somebody off, check it out, because you may be their only lifeline. And that's it. Sorry, that was my computer shutting.
Great job, Jackie. That is very informative and real life. That's what we see in the police department coming in all the time, those type of cases. So thank you so much. Next up, we're going to have Marin County District Attorney Lori Frigoli, our tax recorder assessor Shelley Scott, and DA investigator Mark Reichel.
First of all, thanks to our FAST team. One thing that wasn't highlighted, the FAST team is a group of volunteers and led by Mr. Vandershoff, but they're all volunteers. Most of them have backgrounds in either law, real estate, taxes, bankers, and so they really help my office and law enforcement solve a lot of these difficult crimes. And so I think we should give a hand to the FAST team of volunteers. Sometimes they forget to wag their own tail. So I am Lori Frigoli. It's my honor to serve as your district attorney. We're ready for slide number 1. And so my mission as your district attorney is to connect the community to the courthouse. And shortly after I was elected, Shelley Scott, my elected colleague, approached me with this idea of this deed fraud program that we're going to talk to you about today. So I've just introduced myself. Shelley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, this might be easier. Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. Shelley Scott. I'm the Assessor Recorder County Clerk for the county. And I do appreciate Lori and her staff, the collaboration that we've done to actually really just serve the residents, because deed fraud is going on, and usually your home is your biggest investment. And we were trying to find a way to be in front of this instead of behind it.
Hi, I'm District Attorney Investigator Mark Reichel. I've been there for just over 3 years, 25 years law enforcement here in Marin County, specializing in real estate fraud associated with the deed fraud letter that was part of putting that together, and also dealing with consumer affairs with our consumer affair department as well.
All right, we got that just in time. So let me turn our page here. So next slide, please. I want to circle back just for a moment about what Jackie was talking about. This is actually a text that some of us in the county building got from the department head of our IT department. Totally fraudulent, and we knew right away how it happened. We get alerts about frauds, attempts against the county, probably at least once or twice a month. So we too have to be vigilant in what we do, but it just goes to show you it can happen to anyone, anytime, anywhere. Shelley?
So next slide, please. You can move on to the next slide. So Lori and I have put together a deed theft program because Marin's older population makes us very vulnerable for this type of theft. And certainly long-term generational property owners have built up equity, which can be very attractive to criminals and bad actors. The deed theft can go on and it can be undetected and it's very expensive to repair. Oftentimes people haven't realized that this document has been recorded, but when they go to sell their home or come to my office for other matters, then they realize that certainly the bad actors have recorded a deed in their name.
And this is a service that we provide as part of our job duties, and I'll let Shelley, next time she talks, explain to you where the funding comes from for this program, including our investigator, Mark Reichel. But you probably see television commercials every single day about protecting people's identity and protecting people from their homes being taken by thieves. Well, we're doing the same thing as part of our obligation to you as public servants. So let's talk about what deed fraud is. Next slide. Deed theft occurs when someone without the owner's consent or permission transfers the title of a home to someone other than the owner. Although the recorder staff members look for fraudulent deeds, they're bound by California law to record documents that meet the code standards. So these criminals know what they have to do to file a document, and then I'm going to let Shelley explain why her office has to accept those documents and where the funding comes from for this program.
Thank you. So my office under code, and this is law, I'm required to accept the document if it meets the recording requirements. And that's worth saying again. If these bad actors understand the real estate forms, deeds, grant deeds, if they understand these documents and they've been in real estate, they can record these documents if it meets the criteria. And we have had cases where people have fraudulently signed someone's name, or they have been pressured by a family member or a caregiver, and then try to use literally the home and the equity in the home as an ATM. And as Lori said, you guys have probably seen commercials where other companies for, I think, what is it, $14.99 a month will do this work for you. Well, I collect a fraud fee in the recorder's office with every document that gets recorded. And with that money, it pays for Mark's position and it's paying for this program. And basically what this program is doing is every time a grant deed gets recorded, any kind of deed gets recorded, Lori and I send a joint letter out to you saying, this was recorded on your property. And included with it is a copy of the document that was recorded with a little watermark over it saying that this is a copy. And we ask you simply, did you record this document? If you didn't, we want you certainly to reach out to law enforcement. Oh, I'm probably getting way ahead. Sorry. Anyway, as far as that piece goes, we ask you to contact law enforcement if it isn't something that you recorded and that you authorized.
And these notices are in Spanish and English. And so if you, next slide, please. And so if you are a homeowner who, say you refinanced your house or did transfer it legitimately, you don't have to do anything when you get this notice. But if you didn't know about it, it tells you how to contact our office, and then you would contact Mark. And he's had several cases. Thankfully, I think we only had one that was even a serious situation that we ended up, we're in trial starting tomorrow on it, actually. But for the most part, what we're finding is that there's errors on the banking end of it or the mortgage end of it with the property identification number, the actual number there. And so we're finding other errors in other areas. So things that you can do to be proactive about this before this might happen to you. Ms. Shelley?
You can certainly go to our website, and you can certainly, of course, I know she just said not to use Google, but if you do use Google, you can certainly say Marin County Recorder Index. And basically what we're asking folks to do is quarterly, run your name through my index in case there are fraudulent liens that may have been placed. That can sometimes happen when you've hired somebody to come and do work on your property and they're a contractor. You guys had a disagreement, maybe this person wasn't fully paid. They can record what's called a mechanics lien. Again, you want to look at your name, see if there's been any change in title, see if there's been any mechanics liens, anything out of the ordinary that you're not aware of. And take a look at those documents if something is recorded in your name, and vet that. Make sure that it's either legitimate, and if it's fraudulent, again, you're gonna wanna reach out to Lori's office and notify them so that we can do our work to help you mitigate that.
All right, and so I'm going to turn it over now to, next slide, to Mark, who is our real estate investigator, and he also possesses a real estate license, so it helps to have that expert background. And he's going to talk to you about some related investigations that he conducted, and we have a few documents to show you what you should be looking for as far as fraudulent documents. Okay, Mark?
Sure. First, I'd like to say that since this program started, we've gotten well over 100 calls, 100 concerns about the letter that they got and not knowing that it was recorded. Oftentimes it's recorded when you take something out of trust and put it into trust, or create a trust for the first time. Oftentimes someone's attorney is doing it for them, or a title company, and people aren't aware of it. But it has worked really, really well to calm people's minds and make them understand how the process works. And along with that, this is the letter, the phone number that's on there that you'll call. This is not the letter, this is a different example of something, sorry. The phone number that is on the letter, if you ever see, when we see the letter, is directly to my office. I will take care of it, I will answer the phone. I use the recorder's index that Shelley spoke about all the time. It's very easy to use. Although you just have to search for your name as you would have used it. If you're part of a trust, you have to enter the trust name. If you hold ownership under your own name, you have to use your name and just put a specific amount of dates in. If you do that every few months with the new dates, and you'll be able to check and make sure that nothing's been recorded against your property. This example here was received by someone, and it is basically a tax lien trying to convince someone that they owe money. It is not a real document. There are a lot of bad actors who look and research public records and find that someone maybe did owe a debt or have a lien in the past. They use that information, send it out to the person, and try to get them to contact them, try to get information out of them in order to get either personal information for identity theft, or get you to agree to buy something, or basically trying to get your hands on your money. So when you see these things, they try to mimic the county seal, although that's not the real county seal. They try to present these things so that they look legitimate, even though they are not, and they're just trying to trick you. If you get any of these things, please feel free to call local law enforcement or call our office, and we'll help you get through and navigate through those things. But a lot of these will come in the mail, and they'll be out of nowhere. And so that would be the first clue to say this doesn't seem right, and definitely contact law enforcement. I think that's one. And this is another one. Oh, this is actually the deed fraud letter. So this is what you would receive if there was any kind of recording on your property, any recording, even if you refinance your home, that recording of that refinance is considered a change of ownership and will generate one of these letters. And the phone number on there is to me. And so if you're concerned, you can call, you'll speak to me, and we'll go through it and make sure and find out what it actually is.
And we know this is in Spanish. We put this up intentionally to remind ourselves and let you know that we send these out in English and both Spanish, so.
And a couple slides back, that lien that you saw, that was one of the, again, fake bad actors trying to get someone to pay off a fake lien. And that was actually a resident from San Rafael who reached out to me and contacted me and said, hey, I don't think I own anything. I pay my bills all the time. What is this? Did I miss something? Did I make a mistake? We did just recently put our property in trust. What is this? And certainly when I went into the index and looked at everything, I said, no, you guys are great. I said, send me what it is you're looking at. I said, does it have my name on it? Does it have the seal? Does it have Lori's name on it? No. And I said, is it a county phone number? She said, no. And I said, send it to me. I'd love to actually put that in our presentation, because if a resident in San Rafael is getting it, they're targeting everyone in Marin. If you want to go ahead and move on to the next slide. This one, this one here. Oh yeah, you bet.
Just for me, one last thing for me is one of the other things that I'm doing is I am putting together a training program currently, and by the end of hopefully mid-September and into October, we'll be taking that training program to all the local law enforcement offices to educate as well on how to identify and how to see things that may be related to real estate fraud and these sorts of crimes, so that if you do see something, you can take it to your local law enforcement and they'll be better educated on how to recognize these things and how to get the ball rolling if something is happening.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. And I really appreciate Mark and Lori's partnership. They have been wonderful to work with, getting this program launched. And now we're in the process of really just trying to educate our residents here in Marin County. And we're doing various social media. It's on our websites. We've been doing a lot of outreach into the community, various forums like this. And Lori and I also did a video about it. I'm sure we probably can't connect to that, or can we? No, we don't have internet access. See if that launches.
You're the one with the best luck at getting it.
I know, it's all right. It's technical usually. Yeah, but I really wanted to do this work because I didn't, I'm already collecting a fee for fraud, and we wanted to be in front of this, not behind this. And I don't know if we have a few minutes. I don't know if you even want to talk about it. The case, maybe you can't talk about it. The case that I'd like Mark to talk to you about, a case in Tiburon where we had a home for sale for $9 million, and how we protected this homeowner from, it could have been a lot worse had they been able to access the equity in that home. But I'm going to let Mark talk about it, because one of my clerks is actually going to be an expert witness on the trial this week sometime. But I'll let you talk about this one, because here's where the program is working.
So in the case that we're discussing is, there was a home in Tiburon, you said listed for sale, was vacant, being staged. Someone thought it would be a good idea to go into the recorder's office and record that posing as an owner and granting the property from themselves to themselves and going through the process. And they understood what the requirements were on the recorded document and what they needed with a notary in the proper format and the proper things. And their office was required, of course, to accept it by law. But her office and the folks up there, being so good at what they do, recognized that something was wrong with this recording. We were able to communicate really quick with our office, and we investigated quickly and found that this person was someone, on a completely side note that doesn't matter for this, is a sovereign citizen ideology, and thought that they could take ownership of the property. And once recorded, it becomes public record. The person who was trying to sell the home was no longer able to sell the home, because all public records now showed that the person listing the home was no longer the owner. And so your real estate agents, your real estate brokers, the systems they use with MLS, which is multi-listing services, they all operate on public record information. And so as soon as this recorded, those systems, including a Zillow and a Realtor.com and all those, listed the new owner as this person who came in and tried to take the property. So we were able to act very fast. We were able to get the legal process started and get the property ultimately protected, which is a good thing. An unfortunate thing is that he was not able to sell it. He had a buyer that was ready to go, but then that means it's a clouded title and was no longer able to do that transaction and lost out on selling the property. We are going to court. I think jury selection starts tomorrow on that case. A few felony charges against this individual for falsely and fraudulently recording a title against someone else's property.
So I was just watching something today on television. This type of thing is also happening when homes are not being used, when they're either for rent or the people moved, and also if you have vacant, undeveloped property. I was listening to a news station radio show, I think 3 weeks ago, from a local personality and a financial planner, and he had a client who went up and checked on some property. I think it was in Sonoma or Napa, and unbeknownst to him, his property was put up for sale, and he had no idea. So they were able to stop that, but that's another way this happens. And the case that Mark's talking about is going to trial, and so as we all know, all people are presumed innocent until they're proven guilty. That's our burden to investigate and prove those charges. So that case is currently undergoing. So. All right, so that is at the end of our presentation. We're so grateful that you're here today, and appreciate everybody's patience with us and our technical difficulties, and we look forward to the rest of the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori, Shelley, and Mark. Now, if they wanted to go back and watch the video at home, they go to marincounty.org and marincountyda.org. All right, excellent information, really appreciate it. Next up, we have Mark Vanderskoff, Marin County Public Guardian, Dan Steckline, Marin County Ombudsman, and Eddie Estrada, Marin County Adult Protective Services.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for being here. I'm not going to overly rely on the slides. I prefer that you see me and you hear me. I'm with Adult Protective Services, and I'll go into what that is. But the first thing I wanted to do is just start off with 2 tips for you. We've heard some great tips already, but these 2 tips will likely save you from real financial exploitation. The first one is, do not buy any gift cards. That's one. Target's gonna kill me. And the second one is, when you're doing your banking in person, hang up the phone. That's it. So those 2 things will reduce, I don't know, maybe 55% of the financial exploitation that Adult Protective Services sees. All right, so I won't go into storytelling, but that will save you, all right? Okay, so I'm from Adult Protective Services. We are an investigation group that investigates elder abuse. Now, we investigate severe neglect, neglect by others, isolation, abandonment, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and financial exploitation. Currently, over 60% of our cases are financial exploitation. We see everything from basic scams, takeover of property, stealing checkbooks, using a debit card unauthorized. We see people who are robbed at ATMs in broad daylight. So we see all sorts of things. So the best way to protect yourselves is just to really protect your information and really reduce the times that you're taking out your wallets out in public, because we've seen a lot of that. All right, so how do you qualify for Adult Protective Services? You have to be over the age of 60 years old to qualify, or you have to be a dependent disabled adult. Now, there's a lot of confusion as to what a dependent disabled adult really is. All right, attention folks up here. It's somebody that really can't take care of themselves who's over the age of 18 years old. So somebody who can't pay their bills, somebody who can't feed themselves, somebody who relies on the care by somebody else. Now, if you're over the age of 60 years old and you encounter any sort of abuse, that gets reported automatically to us. And we have a social worker or social services workers who go out and investigate the situation. Now, many times I have called people on the phone to investigate financial exploitation. It could be something as simple as, unauthorized charge of $500, right? So I will call you up and I'll say, my name is Eddie Estrada, and I'm calling from Marin County's Adult Protective Services. How are you? And the people are reticent to share some information, and that is okay. But my job is really to check in on you, see what happened. How did this fraudulent charge happen? Where was your debit card? What password did you enter? And then I will offer suggestions on how to protect yourselves in the future, or how to make yourself whole, how to advocate for yourself with banking institutions. Not all banking institutions are the same. Some banks are wonderful. They will make you whole. They'll reimburse you for the loss. Some banking institutions will say, well, you know what, Mr. Johnson? You actually gave your care provider your debit card, and they racked up a bill of $40,000. We're not going to make you whole on that. I'm sorry. Good luck. That happens every day. It is heartbreaking. So again, always protect your information, your debit card. Make sure it's in your possession. I don't even use my debit card. I use my American Express. That way they have a great fraud department. They made me whole several times. So that's what I do. Our social workers, we have a lovely crew of around 16 social workers that will go out in the community. They will knock on homes and they will see how you're doing. They're lovely people. Please give them a chance. Make sure they have their county ID. But we're really just here to help. And unfortunately, there isn't much prevention that we can do because you guys are living your daily lives, right? You're running around with the grandkids, your adult children, and really have more to worry about than your banking. I mean, it's the reality. We get caught up in it. However, our team of social service workers, we're really here to help. So give us a chance. And if you're not ready for assistance because you just don't trust anyone, like Jackie said, that's okay too. We will always leave our number. You can reach out to us a year later whenever you're ready. We're really just here to help. But I do want to say that this situation is dire. Now you might say, I don't have $5 million. What do I have to worry about? It's like, yeah, but maybe you live paycheck to paycheck, or you're still paying down your mortgage. Like, your money is important. So we want to make sure that you're protected moving forward. So our investigations typically go anywhere from 30 days to 90 days. Again, we have a multitude of complex issues that we investigate, but so long as we have your participation, we stick with you until the end, until you're made whole, or at least till you're protected. So yeah, that's Adult Protective Services. I know that we have a lot of lovely presentations to continue moving forward. So that's it for me. All right, thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? I am here. My name is Mark Vanderskoff. I am the Public Guardian for the County of Marin. I'm also very honored to be the chair of the Financial Abuse Specialist team. So I'm just going to give you a few highlights of the team. You have already heard from them this morning. So just to summarize what we do, we are a team that consists of both private and public sector employees. We provide training and consultation on recognizing, investigating, and preventing older adult financial abuse. So as you heard from Eddie, and have you had heard from Jackie as well, this is a large problem in Marin County. 40 to 60% of the calls to APS have an allegation of financial abuse. It's also true that in our county currently 30% of the population is over the age of 60, and this is going to be continuing to grow over the next decade. So this gives us a backdrop where financial abuse for older adults may continue to increase, unfortunately. Many older adults, as they age, might become more vulnerable to being scammed or being taken advantage of. They become more lonely or isolated as they age. There also may be co-occurring cognitive issues as well. So as we've touched on before, elder financial abuse, or maybe we haven't, it is significantly underreported. So even though APS gets calls about this, there are many cases that people are afraid to report. The reasons for this, first of all, the person may not realize they're being taken advantage of. They might have dementia, or it might be their son and they have complete faith in their son and they're just going to turn a blind eye to it. If they have been scammed or taken advantage of, they might feel too embarrassed to report it because people might worry, oh, people will think I can't take care of my financial affairs. People will think I'm ready for the nursing home. So people don't want to go there oftentimes and report this. They might, as I've said, be dependent on the abuser or not want to prosecute them, or they may fear retaliation. And that's why events like today are so great, and I'm so glad that Captain Navarro invited us all to be here, because we're erasing the stigma of older adult financial abuse. You know, the more we talk about it, and the more people see that it's happening a lot, then they think, okay, well then let's report it. As Jackie had said, it's very important to report. So next slide, please. Our mission, well, as you've gathered, we do community education. We go out to groups like yourselves and give some handy tips on how to avoid being scammed. We also, as has been mentioned, have a forensic arm to our team. One of our members is here in the back, and she works on cases. APS and or law enforcement can refer cases to us. Those are the only entities that can. We've gotten cases from Mill Valley, from Novato. When we get a case, the FAST team member can put together a forensic accounting. They work with law enforcement, they work with the DA, they put together a detailed spreadsheet of how much money is missing, where it's going, are there other accounts that are linked to it. And the ultimate goal is always to get it over to the DA's office and prosecute, which has happened, of course, several times. We have had people from the team testify in cases for the DA, which has helped things resolve quickly. Well, maybe not quickly, but resolve in a manner where everything is, hopefully, restitution is the goal, where someone would actually get paid back for what they have been taken. So let's move on to the next one. Yeah, just as has been mentioned, we have 20 volunteers from the community. These are people with backgrounds in law, banking, accounting, nursing, that kind of thing. So they're all professionals from the community. They are onboarded as much the same way as our county employees are onboarded. They have to obtain criminal record clearance. They must complete any trainings required by our county, like compliance, privacy, sexual harassment, HIPAA trainings, that kind of thing. They also must sign a conflict of interest statement and a confidentiality oath. So it takes a lot of dedication on the part of our volunteers to do what they're doing. Next slide, please. These are our partners: Aging and Adult Services, Adult Protective Services, the Ombudsman, the District Attorney, the Public Guardian, and law enforcement. And I really just want to call out the District Attorney and law enforcement for their role on the team. Their role makes our team successful. Without them coming to the meetings, it would be much more difficult for us to prosecute cases successfully like we do with them. So Lori always makes sure that a DA investigator is at our meetings, which occur every other month. We have good communication with that office. And also, of course, with law enforcement, we go out and try and get cases from them as well. So we really appreciate our partners in law enforcement and the DA's office. All right, so next slide, please. That wraps it up for FAST. I also have a dual role today. I am the Marin County Public Guardian. So while I have the opportunity, I just want to tell you a little bit about our office, because we're not as well known as maybe APS and some of the other offices like Ombudsman. That's my contact information. So yeah, next slide, please, thanks. So who we are, we're the court-appointed conservator of the person and or the estate of vulnerable adults. We also can be appointed to be representative payee for Social Security and Veterans Administration beneficiaries. Next slide, please. So what we do is we investigate conservatorship referrals. We then, if the case meets our criteria, we petition the court for specific authority to act as a conservator. We then make placement, depending on the powers given to us by the court, we can make placement, legal, financial, and/or medical decisions on behalf of the conservatee. And we also maintain their eligibility for any benefits that they need. And we have control their income and their Social Security and Veterans Administration beneficiaries amounts as well. So our office has two kinds of conservatorships. Today we're going to be talking about the probate conservatorships just very briefly. Probate conservatorships are instituted generally for older adults who are suffering from a major neurocognitive issue such as dementia or maybe traumatic brain injury, something that unfortunately they won't be probably recovering from. So when the court adjudicates them to lack capacity, they are represented by our office. It's important to note that we are, in terms of, well, we're the last resort. We would never act as conservator, or the case would not come to us if there are family involved, friends involved, other less restrictive interventions that can be instituted. We are always the last resort to become a conservator as a public agency. Let's see, is there anything else? Yeah, next slide, please. Our referral sources, when we do get cases, Adult Protective Services, of course. We get referrals from medical hospitals. We get referrals from psychiatric hospitals, care facilities like nursing care homes, and the Superior Court itself can refer cases to us. All right. In terms of the numbers that we serve, fortunately, I think it's a very small number of people in Marin that qualify for our services and that need our services, so our numbers are fairly small. Since 2008, we've served 2,213 people. Currently, our caseload is we have 105 LPS or mental health conservatorships. Those conservatorships are initiated when someone has a major psychiatric disorder. They're only established for a 1-year period of time, then they can be renewed or dismissed. And those would be instituted if someone is considered gravely disabled and unable to provide for their food, clothing, and/or shelter due to their mental illness. We have about 30 of the probate conservatorships that we just discussed, and in 76 cases, we have been appointed as the representative payee for the VA benefits or the Social Security benefits, even though we are not functioning as conservator in those cases. All right, that wraps it up for the Public Guardian Office. I am going to turn this over to Dan. Thank you.
How are we doing for time? All right, thank you, Mark. You all might be wondering why a long-term care ombudsman program is a part of this group. We were originally a program created by the federal government back in the early 70s to help people that had problems in nursing homes. In fact, it was originally called the Nursing Home Ombudsman Program. In the early 1980s, there were a lot of assisted living homes being created across the country, and then that was brought into ombudsman jurisdiction, and the name was changed to Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. Our mission statement is to help people mainly resolve problems in the nursing home or in the assisted living home, but we're there to ensure that their quality of life and quality of care is being recognized and addressed. Next slide. So like I said, this was a federally mandated program and also California mandated program. In California, we have a state ombudsman, and then each program service area, there are 33 throughout the state, and Marin County is program service area 5. And we are located within Marin County's Aging and Adult Service Agency. And other counties like Sonoma and different counties, they might be a nonprofit working independently in contract with the AAA. Next slide. So we're a very small but mighty program. We have me, I'm the program coordinator full-time. We have 2 full-time social service workers who are our main staff for our program. We have a half-time administrative staff. We, like FAST, rely on volunteers in our program. They go through a rigorous 36 hours of training. They are then certified by the state ombudsman to do this work. And then they volunteer up to, 10 is the minimum, up to 20, 30 hours a month. So again, they come from all backgrounds. There's no qualifications other than you being able to be available, pass the training, do the continuing education, and to be able to provide that hours per month. Next slide. So our jurisdiction, like I said, is predominantly nursing homes and assisted living. But when it comes to elder abuse, we are assigned the additional licensed facilities by the California Department of Public Health, which are the immediate care facilities for the developmentally disabled. And then we are also, our jurisdiction is adult residential facilities, adult day health care, adult day programs, and congregate living health facilities. So those are all mandated in regulations that we cover those areas for abuse only. So next slide. So we wear a lot of hats in our program. Predominantly we're problem solvers, but we also make unannounced visits. We're required to check in on residents and see how they're doing. We go about once a month, we try to. We're mandated to go once a quarter to all of our assigned facilities, assisted living and skilled nursing. A big thing that we do is provide information and assistance and help people to resolve problems themselves. We also attend resident care meetings upon request. We help with the resident council meetings. If they want to get those to work a little more effectively, we're here to assist with that, and also family council meetings. In skilled nursing facilities, we're required to be a witness for anyone who's completed an advanced healthcare directive. And we provide in-service training to facilities and community education like I'm doing here today. But what brings me to this panel right now is we are the designated agency to receive allegations of suspected abuse for people living in those licensed facilities that I mentioned. So we, like APS, do the same thing that they do, but we are a little bit different. Well, maybe not so much different, but we are a resident advocacy organization. So if we get a report from a bank about financial abuse, suspicious banking activities, maybe there's a suspected abuser named, maybe not, we will get that notification from the bank if they live in one of those licensed facilities. The first thing we do, like Eddie said, we will check in with the resident to see what they know about it and if they have the capacity to talk to us about it. If they don't, we go to their responsible party. If their responsible party is a suspected abuser, we have to get their consent to investigate them. Awkward, to say the least, but we have to do it. If they don't provide us that consent, and we think that there's a chance that this is negatively affecting the resident, I, as the program coordinator, can provide that consent, or I can get the consent from the state ombudsman for us to continue investigating. How would we investigate? Like APS, we would request documents, trust, wills, bank records, investment account information, and we would then, if we have consent again, or appropriate consent is provided, we would have maybe FAST take a look at all those documents and help organize it in a way to where we could see if we think there's a reason to move forward. We would also work with local police, the DA's office, and FAST, all in that group for people in licensed care facilities. Next slide. This is kind of how it works. It's a flow chart for us professionals to look at. I provide these to hospital mandated reporters and others just to see the process. 3 agencies are a part of this flow chart: local police, the Ombudsman Program, and licensing. The licensing program for each agency. Next slide. So again, we're a bit unique in that we are an advocacy organization. We're required to follow the lead of the residents or their responsible party, unless there's an allegation of abuse against one of those parties. We really promote advocacy. We're here to teach people to fish as much as we can. If not, we will go out there and roll up our sleeve and catch the fish for them if they want us to. Written consent is required for everything we do. We can't move forward without it. And our gold standard for our program is to resolve problems to the satisfaction of the resident or their responsible party. There's some information here if you want to. We also do, I should mention, we also do legislative advocacy, systems advocacy. We work on things on state level and national level as well. So there's some contact information for our program. There's a brochure back there on the desk with the FAST team if you're interested more about our program or for volunteering in our program. Thank you very much.
Great job, Mark, Dan, and Eddie. So, we in Mill Valley, we are truly blessed to have these great leaders from the County of Marin here. These guys are leaders in their field, and it's not every day that we have these individuals here in one place. So now we're going to go into our question answer. Michelle is going to be here with a microphone. We will have microphones up here. Michelle, you can go around the room and ask your questions, please.
I have a comment. I'd like to thank the people, the presenters today, for sharing what their agency does. I have not had occasion, even though I am well past the threshold of being an elder, I have not had occasion to use your services. But I would like to thank the DA's office for advancing my case to Mr. Mark Rochelle for investigation. I have a current events case regarding a property that a mortgage was filed and recorded based upon forged information, and the lenders have started a foreclosure action because I am not servicing this fraudulent mortgage. They filed a notice of default, and I'm trying to stop it. I don't know how. If anybody is an attorney in the room or can refer one that this is their area of specialty, it's only $950,000, so. But it's a lot of money to me, and I'd like to keep it in my estate. And I'd like to have this person who we know who did this be in an orange jumpsuit in the fullness of time. So thank you, Mark. Did I mention I'm Lee Greenberg, and thank you, Lori, for providing, for focusing the DA on this area.
Thank you for that comment. You know, it doesn't matter if $900,000 is a lot of money to a lot of people in this room. It doesn't matter if it's that much money or $900 or $90. These people who are out trying to steal your money on any level that they can. And we do our best to stop that and hold people accountable. And Mark does a brilliant job. So thanks for that comment.
For Lori about the imposter being able to file papers that you legally are required to follow through on. Is there any work being done to undo that situation?
So that's Shelley's wheelhouse. She's the
Shelley.
one who
I beg your
accepts the
pardon. Got you mixed up.
accepts the documents, and she can explain that about her obligations. And then when there is fraud or potential fraud, she'll send it to us.
So with that, the statute's very clear that basically the recorder's office is like a repository. Just because somebody records something, it doesn't mean the document is legal. But unfortunately, if it does meet the recording requirements, I am under the code. My staff is required to record it. It doesn't mean that it's legal, but when we suspect something, we reach out to Mark and Lori's office to say, hey, you know, something wasn't right with this. We suspect some foul play. We'd like you to look into it. Not always is it foul play, but certainly when my staff believes something isn't right, somebody was a little too nervous, somebody was, you know, a little hesitant about coming in and out, trying to record a document, certainly our e-recordings as well, we alert Mark. And certainly the outreach that we're doing with our letter is to also alert you that something was recorded on your property. If this wasn't you, if you didn't refinance, if you didn't, you know, add someone to title, you know, there's a copy and a letter to give you information to say, this is what was recorded. If this isn't you, please contact us. Somebody is looking to do, you know, if they get a little farther down the road, use your property as an ATM and take funds out. I didn't hear. I didn't hear. What she said.
She's saying we need more legislation.
More rigorous so that your resources, all of you, are not so, you know, wasted perhaps.
I hate to say it, but the technology is so much farther ahead than the legislators, unfortunately. I mean, that's just it's just a fact, unfortunately, but this was what we could do now with the resources that we have to at least get some sort of notification. It's not foolproof, but it's something that we felt, you know, I felt I had an obligation to do. I mean, I'm collecting money for fraud. Let's, instead of doing it after the fact, let's try to get in front of it to at least, you know, certainly with the Tiburon gentleman, yes, he wasn't able to sell the home, but had these people been able to access that equity, he could have been out hundreds of thousands of dollars instead of just a few $1,000s just clearing the title. So in my mind, that's still a win.
Right, and I think all county and many other governmental law enforcement agencies really are struggling for resources, and we're just grateful that we have so many volunteers. And I think the other question was, how can a law be so vague that you just have to accept a paper if it looks correct? And that's something that our legislators have to deal with. We just have to follow the four corners of the law, so.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to say that I get snail mail confirmations for everything I do if I change my password on an account or anything like that. So I appreciate those. Secondly, I want to ask if these slides can be put on the Mill Valley website so that we can have access to them at a later time. And then the third thing I have is I'd like to ask Eddie, you calling up somebody and asking them for their password and their so forth sounds like from an agency sounds like exactly what we're not supposed to do with a scam. So how do you make contact with somebody who won't answer your phone or that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I might be like the first line of defense where I try to call, resolve the issue. I might send you a contact letter, again, on our letterhead with my office number, our main line. If that doesn't work, then I would send a social worker out to your home unannounced and try to engage you that way. So we really try to make our best efforts to reach you, but sometimes we don't. You know, we do all those things and we don't hear back from this person. So we just hope that the banking institution, if it does happen again, that they refer them back again to us. So, but we do try.
Hi, I have three questions, specific. One, it's very impressive, the degree of protection that the county is providing for all of us. If we are shopping for a retirement home or a memory care facility, is there some office among yours or somewhere else that we can call up and get publicly available information about complaints or other problems at the various facilities we're considering?
I can field that question. You could call our office, the Ombudsman office. We recommend people to go to the Medicare.gov website for nursing homes and the California Department of Social Services Community Care Licensing Division for information about assisted living or any type of facility within their jurisdiction, memory care, assisted living, that sort of thing. We have our own Marin County Choices for Living, which has very limited information, but it would have that link in it. So if you'd like to contact our office, we could send you a copy. You can also just Google Marin County Choices for Living, and you can get that document. So that's a good source of information.
But the, I'm being handed something, so, okay, thank you. About real estate fraud. I understood you to say that or one of you to say that if any deed or other document is recorded that affects the title to our property, that a letter would automatically go out notifying us of that. Am I right in that?
So it's any grant deed, any quitclaim deed, anytime you're refinancing, anytime there's a deed being recorded in my office, a letter's going to go out to the owner of record. The former.
I think that's a yes answer.
It is a yes, but
Okay.
certainly for other documents, certainly like a mechanic's lien, see what other documents, anything that's not a deed.
Right.
Wouldn't get that letter. It's just for the ones that are actually transferring title.
But those could create a problem if we wanted to sell the property. Is that right?
Yes.
So that you had a suggestion that we check title to our own property regularly.
Quarterly. Yeah, I would recommend anytime, certainly for other things that get recorded again, because my staff is required under the law to accept these documents. If they are filled out correctly, if they meet the standard of the letter of the law, we're required to record those
Understood.
documents.
Third question, final question. Several years ago, I got a call from IRS. They said somebody had used our social security number to engage in a transaction that had generated a $9,000 tax liability. It wasn't us. They didn't use my name. They didn't use our address. They didn't use anything except just provide my social, grab a number, fill in the blank, and engage in the transaction. Are you aware of any way, are any of you aware of any way to protect ourselves? It took 2 years to clear it up. I had to get a birth certificate and all sorts of stuff. Is there anything one can do to protect against that?
I am not. I wish I had a relationship with the FBI. I don't, but it's something that, okay, well, he's got a suggestion.
One of the things that I've always recommended folks do is if you're worried about those kind of things, there's 3 major credit reporting companies, Equifax and TransUnion, and I forget the name of the third one, Experian, that's it. You can call them, you can contact them securely and ask to lock your credit reports. So if anyone does get a hold of your social security number and tries to get credit in your name or try to buy something or purchase or loan, there will be a lock on that social security number, and that will interfere and stop that process.
But that would be later. I think what happened was somebody, engaged in a financial transaction, used the number, generated the liability, and okay.
Right,
When
this is the
when all was said and done, I asked IRS who was the son of a gun, not the word I used, who was the son of a gun who did this, and they said we can't give you that information for reasons of his personal privacy. Right. Thank you very much. This has been very helpful.
I would also check, there are some vendors who are always advertising. I subscribe to one of them, and they notify you if somebody takes out a loan on your personal information. I would call one of those people who advertise all the time and see if your social security number would be included in something that would trigger an alert to you. Because I have received alerts in the past, and they're usually legitimate, but that might be something, that's the only other way other than what they suggest might work. So, and I do want to just give a plug. I think it's important that, I'll bet you a lot of you in this room don't know each other, but you came here with a shared concern for yourself and your community. I think it's really important that you try and take the time to really meet each other and talk with each other. And we have a young man coming from a local high school, and he can't get here till noon, but I'm going to beg your indulgence and hang out a little bit and meet this young man and hear what he's doing in the high schools to educate his colleagues and his generation of people on how to protect seniors.
I have a question on an area that you haven't really touched on regarding fraud, and it really involves the victim being a willing participant in sort of the scheme and feeding into that loneliness and abandonment and looking for love in all the wrong places. And my example is my elderly aunt who has fallen into the gift cards, cash apps, Bitcoin, and is now about $250,000 deep. And has, sort of, there's an intellectual acknowledgement to those who love her and trying to protect her of what's going on, but a resistance to have any safeguards put into place and to cut the relationships off. And it's very hard to know, what one can do. She's avoided giving power of attorney. There's discuss about guardianship or conservatorship, but she's still, there's some mental decline, but she's still quite savvy and trying to work around all of the safety net being put in place. And I'm just wondering what kinds of advice you might have for this kind of a situation when the loved ones who are trying to protect her are being basically turned away and not, not paid any attention to. She'd rather have a relationship with the scammers.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I really am. We have a lot of those situations come up, and in our program, we tell victims' families that individuals have a right to folly. They have a right to make poor decisions. They have a right to not take care of themselves, not take care of their homes, cut off everybody. And you said it. They're unwilling to designate power of attorney. They have capacity. Their doctor says, no, she's good. She can make her decisions. That's really hard to combat. So as family members, friends, as you just continue to offer your support, but that loneliness and that need to connect, it's really hard to overcome. Even all of us in here at different ages or different levels of capacity or different sizes of our family, we all have that need to be connected, to be loved. And so if your aunt is getting this, that's going to be really hard to replicate, just from a niece or a nephew. So again, I'm just really sorry to hear that, but it is really common. So yeah, I'll tell a situation. We had a client like this, and she was just getting $900 a month to live, and she was perpetually homeless. And she was giving away her $900 every month to a boyfriend in New Jersey. Oh, he loves me and he's gonna move me with him and he's gonna buy me a Mercedes. And we're like, ma'am, no, he's not. And so, we really worked hard to get her a rep payee. And, we could talk offline about what happened. But yeah, eventually we got her a rep payee and her rent's paid, so she's no longer homeless. And she was getting $80 a month allowance to spend as she wanted. And guess what? She was sending $80 to her boyfriend a month in New Jersey. So some situations, some people just, it can't be helped. So again, sorry to hear that. Happy to talk to you about what happened offline.
We're very lucky in Marin County that there are many, many opportunities for older adults to become parts of communities. The people who used to be called, what is it, Vivalon now? They have a number of programs. It may not even be possible, but if there's a way to introduce your aunt to other ways of relating to people and being, having friends and a social life, there are a lot of opportunities in this county to do that.
Okay, I think one last question, and then we want to introduce a very special young man. And remember, we'll be here afterwards, so if you have some individual questions, please feel free to grab one of these panelists.
I just have one question. Is Safari the same as Google?
No, it's a different browser.
Because Google contacted me and wanted me to give them my password. So what I did is I called Apple support and I sent that email to Apple, and then they thanked me for sending it to them because it was fraudulent. So I think sometimes if you have an issue, you could call Apple support and talk to them, and they're very helpful.
Most organizations, banks, insurance companies, whomever, if there is a fraudulent situation in which someone is pretending to be that organization or company, they want to hear about it. So if you get something from Wells Fargo, for example, and you realize it's a fraud, let them know, because they have a lot of clout and they have a huge technology department, and they need to know where their vulnerabilities are.
Great, thank you. So now we have Ethan Lichtblau, who, Evan, okay, I had Ethan, my apologies. Okay, no worries. Conquering the Divide, I'm sorry, who else is that? Colin, very nice to meet you, Colin. Conquering the Divide, so it's youth helping seniors, is that correct? Would you like to come up here and say a few words? All right, Evan and Colin, all right. We'll just use one, it'll ring.
Hello? All right, so yeah, as Steve said, I'm Evan Lichtblau, and
I'm Colin Can. Nice to meet you all.
we're both juniors at Tam High School. It's actually our first day of school today, so pretty exciting. I had the pleasure this summer of working with the district attorney's office as an intern, and in conjunction with Mark here and the FAST team. And my goal was to educate seniors about the dangers of online scams, which have cost us billions every year in this country. And I was able to give out a presentation at Drake's Terrace Retirement Home. And so Colin and I wanted to continue this work and move it forward into high school, where we are founding Conquering the Divide, a club which goal is to continue educating seniors about online scams. And our ultimate goal for the future of Marin is hoping that not one person falls for an online scam and loses their money. Thank you.
Do you want to add anything else? No. All right, future leaders of America right here. Thank you, Evan and Colin. And you wouldn't be surprised, but Evan's mom is Judge Lichtblau here in Marin County Courts. Okay, so thank you so very much for spending 2 hours with us today. And thank you to our excellent panelists providing that wonderful information. Also remember, we have a representative from Medicare, Medicaid in the back. And please feel free to grab one of us and ask those individual questions if you wish. Have a wonderful day.